Welcome to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by Haven, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Haven Hubcast. I am Nancy Sheed, and I am inspired, is today's word, to be talking with Mark Andreas. Mark, welcome to the Haven Hubcast.
Thank you, Nancy.
We are excited. So Mark is an artist, and as you said, an artist educator. He has his own studio, as well as he teaches others the crafts of woodworking. And as we're going to hear a little bit more about the philosophical approaches to coming to art and how important creativity is to our work. So, Mark, we were talking earlier, and I guess you're one of the people who maybe did know at a young age what you wanted to be when you grow up. Can you tell us a little bit like what young Mark thought older Mark would be doing in his sort of job or career?
Yeah, well, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think since the earliest I can remember, I grew up along a river that was in the woods in Connecticut. And I think since my earliest age, I was really fascinated by this sort of this being that was always changing, flooding and drying out and changing the world around it. And I also had a wood shop in the house. And so right away, I wanted to try to build a boat and to make a dock. And every year the dock would get destroyed by the ice freezing it up and tearing it down. So I always had a yearly project. And that was a focus from an early age, was trying to work with the river. I think the river really taught me to be an artist because it was always changing the landscape around it and redefining it and redesigning it. So that progressed a little bit further. And then around age 14, I started an apprenticeship program in Northern Germany, boat building apprenticeship program. And I worked with wooden boats through the summers. And a little bit after that, I went off to art school. And I was always trying to find your niche in art school. And about in my sophomore or junior year, I stumbled down a hallway and saw a door open, and there was a wood shop. And that was a surprise to me because nobody told me that woodworking was a fine art or a visual art. So that was my niche. That was something I could do. And I think soon after that, I started describing myself as a sculptor. I have worked as a craftsperson, as a boat builder and a carpenter and a metal fabricator, a physical designer, and art director. But all along, I've been having a career as an artist, as a visual artist, and as a sculptor, and been exhibiting my work nationally and internationally since about 2005.
Fantastic. We'll definitely share your studios, your art website on there as well. And sorry, I think I interrupted you when you were I know you told me you've been educating quite a bit as well along your journey. Was that natural? How did that evolve?
Yeah, I started somewhere along the way. I started being invited to different universities to be visiting artist, lecture, and give workshops and create art with the students, which was always a very nice experience. I started to teach metal sculpture and woodworking and figurative sculpture. And about a year and a half ago, I decided to open up my studio, which I've had here in Glenbrook, Stamford for the last 17 years, into a classroom and also my production studio for my work, and invite my students to come into my studio and learn the craft of woodworking and figure sculpture as well, but also be part of my experience and being in the studio. I'm preparing for a show in Japan in August 1st, where I'm going to be building a public sculpture there. And so they're kind of part of that journey by coming into the studio.
Wow. When you were asked to speak, is it one of those things, that I'm just curious, some artists are very introspective and don't like the talking and don't like being in front of the public. I'm getting a sense from you that you like sharing your perspective and how you do things and sort of bringing people alongside of you. What does that look like from your side? I'm curious, and then how that sort of fed into, teaching your classes and building a business around it.
Yeah, I think every artist comes at it from a different perspective or something else they want out of it. Yeah, I've always been really excited about what I do, and I've always felt that a lot of that, a lot of the art making process is to be able to express that excitement and exploration and discoveries that you make through the artistic process with people around me. And not only have my work be the vehicle for that message, but also the community and the dialogue with the community around it has always been something that's been important to me.
And the business model, sort of building on that question, the business model for artists is not necessarily the same as a business model
Mm.
for somebody who has computer IT services, right? Is
Hmm.
that something you figured out on your own, or you saw modeled at the places where you were teaching? Is that something that you had an affinity for? I do not want to stereotype that a guy who walks in the woods and communes with nature and hears, like literally talks to the trees.
Right.
One would say that maybe running a business wasn't the thing, but that might not necessarily be the case because you seem so comfortable with it.
Well, I mean, really, I think the great advantage of offering woodworking classes and the a classroom. I give classes in the forest as well as in the wood shop, and demonstrating to people this amazing world around it is that there is so little of it available.
Mm,
Very few places where you can take weekly classes to learn woodworking, and there's very few places that you can learn tree identification or understanding more about the amazing living world around you, and particularly in this area. So that was something that slowly occurred to me, that it would be wise to offer these programs, and that I have the studio and I have the equipment and I have the experience to be able to do it. And there's a large need for it here. I think
mm.
a lot of our vocations in this area are tech and computer based vocations, and people are spending their days and weeks and years connected to a screen, and that is it's not healthy, and for the mind or for the hands. And a lot of times, even more, people are isolated in their apartments, working for a company in Chicago, for example, in
Mm.
Stanford, and are isolated from people as well. And so to have a weekly class to go to and to be able to work on something tangible is something as beautiful as wood and as important as wood to our being is a good business model.
Huge, huge. And you segued nicely into, you and I were talking about being a creative person and building business, but exactly what you've just said, how critical it is for business to have creativity or outlets of creativity, or for just people who are working in business. And I think a lot of people, you know, again, because we've grown up this way and so few of us are spending times or making space and time for creativity, we don't consider ourselves creative, right?
Mm,
And, I've had to accept, like, you know, creating in your own work, even if it's marketing, uh, can be creative, right? But if you're not getting enough space and making space for, as you said, the trees, or using your hands, or having a hobby, you're going to run into a brick wall. And so
mm.
I'd love to hear you say, the types of people you're teaching. I mean, they sound like they come from all walks of life and all expertise. And how is what they're learning with you impacting their life beyond what they come out of their workshop with?
Yeah, my students are all ages, from teens to people in their 80s, from all walks of life and backgrounds. Some are retired, bankers, and some are a lot of programmers, a lot of young programmers in their 20s and early 30s that are pretty wise to the fact that they need to hold on to something tangible. And some creatives, some art directors. I worked as an art director as well, and there's nothing more
Mm,
frustrating than spending 6 months on something and then have it just taken away from you and it's gone. And that's something that yeah, learning, to work with wood can never really happen. And I think it's also a human right to be able to use your hands to innovate and to improve something. Just the very nature, our mind-hand connection. Our mind is not only above our shoulders, but it's also in our hands, and it is gives you joy to be able to imagine something and then create it in front of you. And I think that that's many of my students have told me, while my classes aren't completely inexpensive, they say it's a lot cheaper than therapy.
There's the tagline right there.
Yeah.
There you go. Cheaper than therapy. Come to my
Right.
woodworking classes. That's great. I love that. And like I said, I'm a little in the middle of reading a book about wonder. And, it sort of said, here's a way to just be open to wonder. And it's literally like pursue a hobby relentlessly. And it's not for the point of being perfect and going to art shows. It is, as you just described, the act of learning a new skill, maybe, I hate to say perfecting, getting better at that skill, having that tangible product to hold in your hands and admire and look at and everything else. So I love that you've found that need in our area. Before we go on, I don't want to skip over. You have a very profound outlook, it sounds like, at least to me, in terms of working with wood. You touched upon being in the woods and that you take classes in the woods and that's what you work with. But you've just enlightened, and share with our listeners sort of, it's much bigger than that and how you see wood and what's going on in our culture and society.
Wood fundamentally is not a building material. It is plant tissue, and it's a living, breathing organism. The wonderful thing about woodworking is every piece of wood you ever work with in your life or as a woodworker is a unique individual with its own story and its own life within the material, because it grew to that. And its purpose for being in front of us is really to sustain all life on earth, not to be a piano or a chair. Woodworking is often it's like a dance with the material, and the material is always in the lead, and our short lives will never really give us a true understanding of what that material has to say. But it is also a lot like what I also teach in the forest as well in the living classroom, is that it has so much to teach you just as it is, as a material. That's always inspiring to me. And it's a lot like taking a walk in the woods, working with the wood in the shop, because you're always noticing new things and discovering new changes that the wood is going through, because it's somewhat conscious, even though it's no longer connected to its leaves or its roots. It's changing with temperature and humidity, and even possibly obscene emotions move pieces of wood. And that leads a lot to my own personal work. I build art that explores time, change, and movement in many different types. But that's something I'm committed to exploring for the rest of my career.
I love that you've got these dual tracks to sort of feed off of each other. Do you know what I mean? As you learn one and the other, you can take it to the other.
Yeah.
I'm afraid my limited woodworking was middle school shop class, but I will tell you that one of those projects is still hanging on a wall in my house. So I'm going to go look at it slightly differently. And
do you know what kind of wood it was?
Oh no, I think it was cherry. I don't know.
I
don't know. It's holding a candle. It's one of the classic 3-shot projects that you have.
Nice.
It's not a stool. I'll tell you that. It's not a stool. But I'll go look at it with different appreciation and say a nod to Mr. Royalty, my shop teacher.
Nice.
Mark, we are here obviously because Haven brought us together, but what I love is sort of how you came to Haven and what Haven means to you, or sort of how you work with Haven, and that's always important to sort of see so many people come in so many different angles. So a little bit about how Haven came into your world, or how you came into Haven.
I was invited to have a show of Haven, and I was immediately impressed by all the different diverse people working different careers that were kind of in one space, and the energy that you could kind of feel when you walked in there. I am running a small business, and my background is in visual arts, so I never really had that education in business management or any of that. So I thought that this could be a place to find other people that are like-minded like me that are, trying to build a small business, and I might get some valuable experience through that. Also, about 70% of my students are women. Not something that I would assume when I started doing this, but that there's a lot of women working in the tech or other types of industries there at Haven. I thought that might be a chance to meet more possible students in that community and to open up my offerings to that community as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I thought joining would be a good idea, and I'm happy.
And
so
then
far.
you discovered they had nature walks once a week as well.
And that was actually one of the major things that I said, okay, for sure, I'm going to do that. I need to go into the woods every day just to keep straight. And that was great to hear that they have once a week on Tuesday or Wednesday morning a walk in the woods. I thought that was a cool community that I would like to be part of.
Awesome. Well, if I don't see you on one of those walks, maybe I'll see you out sailing. Are you alluded to boat building? It's summertime?
I do sail. Yes, I do sail out of Norotan. Yes, it's a Marshall Cat boat. And
okay,
yeah.
All right. So we'll either see you in the woods, on the boat, or in the studio.
Great.
And for people who don't see you in any of those three places and want to find you by way of their computers or their phones, what's the best way to reach you, Mark?
Studio Andreas Woodworking. It would be, if you Google that, you would find my website with my class offerings. And I have classes that are currently online for the fall that are open for enrollment.
Perfect. And we'll include that in the show notes as well as your art website, because I think that, just like I said, I love these two very, very tied and connected tracks of the world of Mark Andreas. Mark, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Okay. I'll see you around.
Thanks for listening to the Haven Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Haven is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Haven is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the Haven community online at haven.com. That's HAYVN.com. Haven Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.